What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 75 of the Overview. I'm ChanManV, and I'm joined today by Fishstix and Flame. What's up, guys?
Here I am in this very nice studio, and I could not get the nice mic to work, so I'm stuck on this HyperX cloud, which is, doesn't sound bad. At least I was able to figure it out. This was like a mad scramble in the last possible second to get this working.
That's what happens when you're using a room that's shared by lots of people, I'm sure, and you never know what
we're in there, though. We made it.
Yeah, we made it. Unfortunately, one of our cast members did not make it, which was ZP. He's feeling really terribly tonight, so gonna have to give good old ZP a pass tonight. He'll hopefully be back next week, so maybe he's watching right now while he's in bed. But got a bunch to talk about, and obviously Flame being back, it's always great to have our friend Flame. What's up, buddy?
75, dude. Episode 75.
Yeah, dude.
I know, it's crazy.
Like, it's actually crazy.
What do you mean? Like, is that a lot or is that a little?
Yeah, because I remember BlizzCon. Okay. You guys were like talking. Remember, there was like a conversation. Are we gonna get an overview of BlizzCon? And it was like we were still in like the teens or something.
Oh yeah. That's right. Like, was that? I guess that was right. Yeah, because it's probably like 50 episodes, or maybe like 45 episodes from there. So yeah. Pretty cool.
I actually remember BlizzCon 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I remember Chris hunting down Stir to be
dude, that was like stalking Stir.
And then like me and you, Chris and I go way back, and I'm just like, hey Chris, I like Overwatch. Like, can I do this with you? Like, yeah. And that they had just announced May, and Genji and Diva, and Stir was like no lifing May all day in the
what was so funny
room.
What was so funny is that one of the missions I had going into BlizzCon was finding Stir and Germa and pitching the idea of the overview to them.
Yep.
And like I'd basically given up because the entire time I could not find them, and we were literally on the last day, and I was just like, it was like me and Ben and Gunrun and Shindigs and some of the Twitch guys, and we're just like, man, screw it. Let's just go to the media room and just play some Overwatch. So we went up to the media room, and then we're all in our six. Yeah, we're all on our 6 computers on one side, and there's 6 computers on the other side, and we're all on the same team, just us. And then all of a sudden we see Stir show up on the game screen, and we're like, oh, he's one of those dudes. Yeah. Anyways, that's kind of the genesis of the show. So it's pretty funny that we're at 75. But so not too much longer, we'll be at 100, which is like always the milestone for podcasts. I feel like if you can get to 100, it's probably worth clapping about, because it's not easy.
We'll throw a party on stream. We'll get some
cake. Exactly. But anyways, getting back to episode 75, which is tonight, we've got a good bit of news and just a lot of the events results like we always do. A little bit of Toxicity discussion that Jeff Kaplan brought up in the latest developers update, so I figured we'd have our own discussion too. And we've got some meta discussions too. I think, Ben, you wanted to have a few topics here, including some, I don't know, maybe some brainstorming as to what we would want in terms of heroes or future heroes. And then lastly, we've got quite a few questions this week. Man, we had a lot of email questions. So thanks so much, guys, for writing in. And if you guys do want to get your questions in next week, or maybe we can, I don't know, maybe if we have time for whatever reason, we can get it in. Go ahead and email those to theoverview@chanmanv.tv. And that will, we'll try to get those on. But okay, well, let's start off with the news. Like, we typically don't start off with player, team, and that sort of news. But I figured tonight was a good one, given that we received some big Overwatch League news, which Jacob Wolf from ESPN, a friend who's been on the show before, ended up releasing that sources say that 2 more teams have been confirmed for Overwatch League, and those 2 teams include one that's going to be funded or invested by Comcast Spectacor, which is going to be the Philadelphia site, and then we've got Optic Gaming, and then their kind of investment group going to be the Houston site. So we finally do have at least one Texas venue or Texas city. Houston, to be honest, I didn't think it was going to be that one. I didn't think that was going to be the first one. I thought it was going to be like Dallas or maybe even Austin before Houston. So pretty cool that Houston got a team, given that it's kind of my hometown, or at least the town I grew up in. So definitely cool. But Comcast being involved is definitely, I think, the big news here too, because that's It's obviously a company that has a lot of different resources like venues and things like that. So first off, what do you guys think about this? Like with this pretty big news, excited for these cities? Ben?
Yeah, sure. So we've definitely talked about the fact that we hope a couple more teams at very least get added to the roster. So first things first, it's just good to hear that there's at least a couple more teams in the running here. So I think we're up to 13 potential teams if you account the League of Envious as well, being in Dallas. So we're getting closer to a number where I really want us to be. Ideally, I think we even go a couple more. The rumors, as part of Jacob Wolf's article, are that it's only going to be 14 teams for this first season, which is not bad. It could be worse. It could be better. I was certainly hoping for the 16 to 20 range, especially considering how few teams there have been announced in Europe and actually Asia as well. I mean, we have 2 Asian teams, but even still, it seems like there could definitely be more. But let's talk about the actual owners and the locations a little bit. I think it's very cool that Optic is in the scene, but it's also kind of weird because you can't just say like, oh, it's awesome that Optic is here so we can play off their brand recognition. Oh, wait, they have to start anew and make a brand new brand. So that's like, it's kind of questionable what value you'll be able to derive there. I mean, I'm sure they'll be using the Optic brand to promote themselves as much as possible. And I didn't even really know about Comcast's sports team arm that they have going on. But, obviously Comcast is one of the bigger corporations on the planet. So seeing them involved is also pretty great. And that brings us to 2 Texas teams now, if the envious rumors are true.
Yeah. Flame, what do you think, man?
I mean, it's cool. Like everything is cool. I just want to talk about a little bit when we get to like this talk about the number. And this is like coming. I'm not gonna say who, but like there's definitely a big discussion in the back end right now of just like who's in charge of these cities, and it's like getting to a point where there's not a lot of people who know the scene well enough to like be like the managers of these like cities already. And we're only at like 14. So like when we get to 20, you start really realizing that there's not a lot of people to be like running the show at these cities. So I think we're at that point where like even though 12 or 14 seems low, I do think that there's like a magic number where you start like running out of players that are at like that top level and running out of like competent, leadership.
Yeah.
How many teams do you think we could field off the current player base, Flame?
It's
what do you think?
Okay, you can answer that
like
question.
Good like competitive teams, I guess.
If you take buyouts out of the equation, you probably could get to like 16, 17, 18 maybe if you push it. The problem is like a lot of this has to do with regionalization too, right? Like you come into this and maybe you're like a team like Giganti. I think Giganti is like a fantastic team, but they're Finnish. And you want to do you come in or do you wait until Helsinki maybe gets a spot, And that's kind of, I think, where some of the teams are at. Nobody's talked about United. United's like obviously got a lot of UK players. I think some of them are Netherlands. Do you want to come to NA? Same with Rogue, like obviously the biggest French squad in the game. Do you wait for Paris? And like that's kind of like this weird limbo, I think, where some of these teams and these orgs are winding up right now. So it's like you can pull apart these teams for these cities, or maybe those players want to wait out until they can get somewhere that they can more like confidently and like establish themselves as like the franchise players that they want to be.
I would assume that the players would be at this point. I think they'd be happy just to be part of any team, and then just kind of adapt from there, as expansion happens and things like that.
I was talking more from like a buyout perspective.
Oh, buyout perspective.
Like you have to start buying out these full teams like Rogue.
True.
Like
That's just not going to happen though. I mean,
exactly.
I think we're to the point where I think everybody should know. It's probably clear to a lot of people right now that have owned Overwatch teams that that's just not going to happen. And we've seen some people obviously leave the scene leading up to this, but even teams that actually have rosters that have been relevant for a while now, I think are starting to realize that. But I think you touched on something really good there, Flame, is that I feel like the management aspect, the actual organizational staffing of these teams is where there's, probably a very slow process, given that, we don't have that many experienced people that can hold, very
not
executive
positions. Is the thing.
Not
NA ones is the thing too.
Right.
Like, there's so many good people in Korea, but there's not a lot of Korean teams and stuff right now, obviously. And I actually had this conversation with Blizzy U when I was in Australia. And apparently, like, there's like this discrepancy, or like there's like this huge difference between North America and Europe, where like in North America, there's just like millionaires, you know, there's just like dudes, and they just have incredible amounts of money. And it's like theirs, you know, like you just go up to people like Robert Kraft, you're like, do you want to invest in this? And they're just like, yes. And like they have that control. But apparently in Europe, it's like very different. And I didn't realize this, that like in Europe, it's like shareholders, and like a lot of the money is like controlled by like groups. And so like from a timing perspective and just like getting everyone to agree, it's a lot harder to say like, oh, do you guys want like a Manchester spot? And then you have to like go through like 20 people to agree on it, as opposed to the NA where it just takes one guy who just like wants to do it, and he's just like, okay. So I do think that there's like a lot of expansion potential in Europe, but I think it's going to take more time just from like a logistical standpoint.
Yeah. You know what's, you know, a bit, I don't know, it like boggles my mind sometimes, where like I'm surprised is that whenever, you know, you bring up an example, like there's just some billionaire that's just willing to do things. You know, like if some guy just goes up to him and convinces him to do something, you know, he's good, right? But the thing is that we're talking about guys that are sports owners. You know, like they already own teams, they already own organizations that are obviously super professionally staffed. I mean, you know, they know how to build an organization. So I feel like, wouldn't it be harder to actually be able to convince somebody like that, even though this is like a new space? But you know, still having one person go and convince, you know, somebody that, hey, I can run your group. You know, I feel, I don't know, when people are telling me some of the stories around, or maybe like, you know, maybe this type of thing is happening at some places, I just find that hard to believe, given that these people, actually most of these people have some type of organization that they already own that is like, you know, super professional. So I don't know, it's a bit conflicting for me. So I don't know, like, why is this happening if it is happening, I guess?
I mean, most of those people that you're talking about, they're billionaires. So
yeah,
$20 million doesn't actually.
But that doesn't matter. Like billionaires still don't like to be stupid about their money.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
But
so
if you look at their portfolios, most of them are pretty diverse. It's not just one team. It's not just two teams. They're having like developmental league teams. They have like teams all over the place. You know, including outside of the traditional sports. I think most of the team owners have some kind of like, what's it called in baseball? I forget. Just the equivalent of NBA D League.
Minor league.
Minor league. There you go. Yeah. So you know, I think it's part of their portfolio. It's a big risk, but it's also potentially a big return. So they're willing to take that gamble, I think.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're like Comcast, right? Or like, there's like all these articles coming out, and I keep seeing them. It's like, oh, there was like an article recently. It was like, oh, the NBA wants, you know, their broadcasts to look more like computer streams. And I don't know what that means. You know, like maybe they want Twitch chat on the side of MSNBC. I think that's
but
like,
that's pretty.
I mean, that's how I see it. But my point being that like, yeah. Well, my point being that like, I think that there's people are starting to realize, and there was another article I read too, where it was like, you know, like younger kids are starting to watch more esports than sports, and like I totally believe that. And I think a lot of that is like, you know, these people realize that. I mean, at some point, someone probably thought football is not going to be a big thing. You know,
no, I mean, I get why they're getting into the space. That's not really the question. The question is whether, you know, people are questioning, you know, whether, I don't know, people that are hired for some of these, you know, spots or managerial spots are, you know, capable of doing it or not, right? And the thing for me is just that, you know, these people are not your typical esports story where, you know, literally somebody from some completely different industry comes in. And, you know, it's more of like a passion thing. They just kind of want to just throw some money into something that they really, really like. So, you know, we have these horror stories that happen, right? That usually result from this type of thing. This isn't that type of story. You know, this is like folks that have business, you know, have successful sports franchises and organizations coming in and trying to do something that mirrors the same thing. It's a different sport. It's still the organization, right? So, I guess my question is like, I mean, the people that are questioning, I guess, some of these hires, I mean, is this type of thing happening right now? You know, like in terms of, you know, people getting duped, you know, that sort of thing, or no?
I mean, I would hope that Blizzard's on top of that, you know, like, again, it's like one of those things, you know, like people can throw resumes at you. People can say, you know, I'm experienced.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, though, most of the owners are talking, and there are definitely people that have that experience, right? Like you do have people like Noah and Jack who have been around at least, you know, so like you can open conversations that way. And I mean, I'm sure every now and then someone's gonna be like, oh, you know, I talked to this guy, and people are just like, get out, you know, like close the door.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? Like I'm sure at every single point in most sports careers, I mean, not most sports careers, but just in situations like this where you do start up like a new venture or you do start up a startup, even, like, you're gonna get duds. And I mean, that's probably part of the
we don't again,
right?
like, it leads down to, we don't actually have a lot of people that are experienced. Like some people are asking for, I was just looking at some Blizzard posting or whatever, 10 years of this experience or 10 years of that experience, and it's like, if we're talking about like franchise owning and things like that, there's like people that have managed, had some management role in teams, and
well, did you see? I mean,
not very many of them at all.
Not to derail, but did you see the job posting from Huck yesterday for Boston?
It's there's like
literally
them, right?
It's like 4 jobs at once. It was like the job description was literally like you could hire 3 people to do it, and it might not still be enough. And I'm like, I don't understand, like, how, like, you think you're like, you know what I mean? It's like you end up in this. It was something about like they wanted someone to host a show and be their video editor.
Do social media, multimedia production, and
be the face of our org and host talk shows. And it was crazy. It was like, be ChanManV, be a video editor. Also be our spokesperson. It was kind of nuts.
Ambassador too.
Yeah, it was brand ambassador.
Well, that one position was like a load, but a social media manager, that's like pretty normal. And then there was one that was like a video editor or something like that. It's like, okay, but yeah, that one that he posted for was like, wow, okay. And I mean, you pretty like show up on talk shows.
You need like 3 minions in like a suit that just all take turns like doing different.
That is a pretty crazy.
On the bright side. Yeah. For people looking to get into people looking to get into esports, my brain, I don't know what's going on. Right now is an amazing time.
Right now is probably the best time that you could ever ask for.
It really is. It really is. I mean, it's cool that even Huck posted that, right? I mean, at least they're looking for those jobs. Exactly. They're looking for those positions. I mean, I think he's ahead of the curve right now in terms of
definitely
other organizations.
And if you are looking to get into the industry, video editing, social media, asset production,
meme generation,
those are going to be great. Like, every single team is going to need a good video editor and a good social media person, every single one of them. So
yeah, absolutely. Writers too. Writers are definitely good. Not just like your typical article writer, but just writers generally. Very, very good skill to have right now. Okay, yeah. So those 2 teams were announced. I think it's just huge. I think the Comcast thing is actually really, really big, just given that Comcast, they have venues, especially in Philadelphia. They
forget the venues, man. Think of all the advertising. They could just get ads on your TV and shit, and you're just like, oh my god, what is this?
I mean, they're going to be like blasting all this stuff, even in whatever respective sports that they're involved in, right? Like, so hockey in terms of the Comcast and the Spectacor. So because they own the Flyers. So there's going to be a lot of just, cross promotion between the sports and esports, which is going to be pretty interesting and cool. At least cool for folks that like sports and esports. That's going to be particularly nice. But some other cities too that were, I think Jacob, maybe even another article hinted, or some other place did mention about, Dallas, right? Just because there was a lot of talk about Indy before and wondering. So that apparently is incoming, as well as the Milwaukee Bucks owner has been offered the Chicago spot. So that sounds like it's in the works right now. Like, I know they didn't, it wasn't as solid as the Philly and Houston teams, but I feel like that one's probably going to get done too.
Yeah, we've been talking about Chicago. Again, I know we already brought it up, but I just really hoped, I guess it may not even be possible anymore, but I really hoped that we'd see a more global representation. We'll take what we can get. Blizzard is trying to launch the most ambitious esports league of all time. So one step at a time. It's not going to immediately happen right off the bat, but I certainly did hope to see, something in Paris, something in Frankfurt, something, more in Korea, more in China. I really do hope that that's where we're going ultimately, but still a lot to get excited about here.
I mean, it's not, if we had the pick of the litter, they had just tons and tons of people obviously throwing money at them, then of course they would if they had the choice. I just don't think they have that choice right now, and you got to start somewhere. And I think that there has been discussion. There's that one thing on Reddit, I think, even today, that just showed the map, right, of just like where all the teams are for OWL, right now, or where it was originally presented. And of course, it's completely NA heavy right now, or US heavy right now. But I think I'm okay with that as long as like the expansion just continually happens, between seasons 1 and 2, and it's just something that's just ongoing. I mean, they obviously can't get started, until they're ready for whatever season, but hopefully just that continual process is happening while the league is running itself too.
I mean, when you put it in perspective too, I mean, just last BlizzCon, like we had none of this, and like we're almost at BlizzCon, and when you consider that, like now there's at least like a little bit of a roadmap. I mean, the teams that are going to come in for season 2 might have like lower pick, I guess, on the players, or they'd have to like start playing buyouts and stuff. But when you look at it, like there's so much room for expansion. Like, I mean, I don't think anybody expected the Sydney World Cup stop to be like the most hype spot, or just like the most hype crowd that Overwatch has probably ever seen in a live environment. And like stuff like that is only going to get bigger. And like people forget that there is like that whole OPS going on. Like China does have its own league. Thailand's got teams. All of Oceania has their own teams, and like there's so much global potential when you look at it that way. Even Brazil is starting to grow up their spots, and like I mean, if Europe does start getting investors, then again there's just so much potential. So it's just a matter of getting the right people on board and finding the right people to work with them.
Yeah, let's just get 14 or whatever the number is going to be, and let's just do it right. Like let's do season 1 right, and then kind of move forward from there. But sometimes if you start too ambitious, it's hard to succeed. Okay, well, another bit of news we have here is that one of the Overwatch League teams, the Seoul team, has signed a new coach. So they signed Nugget as their coach, and we found that out just through Twitter here, at least with, let's see, I'll show it to you guys here. You just Jaffa's Twitter here, and Nugget was previously, he's coached, MVP Space and MVP Infinity. So I wanted to bring this up just because I felt like, there was a lot of choices for the Seoul team. I mean, there's a lot of Korean coaches out there, and, they decided on Nugget. So wanted to get y'all's thoughts on this, and, was there somebody that you thought that maybe they would have considered instead of Nugget, or do you think Nugget was the best choice here?
I mean, they have Uve already, and I mean the team has won, like it's a winning team, a winning culture. So I mean, I'm not skeptical, I don't know what the word is. Like I'm hesitant to jump on a lot of ships when it comes to like some of these decisions, because I don't know what's going on in the back of their minds when it comes to OWL, right? Like maybe this is like a business decision, maybe someone knew somebody, or like, I mean, at a base level, MVP Space dumpstered them in week 1 of Apex, and maybe they were just like, all right, well, this guy just like tore us apart. We need him on our side. Yeah, like this guy beat us. We need him now. So I mean, that's another way to look at it. And I don't know how long it's been going on, because Runaway just took down MVP Space pretty handedly. I mean, I expected a better match, but they ran pretty much the exact same comp that MVP Space had ran against Lunatic High when they won. But at the same time, Runaway came up with like a brand new comp that I don't think anybody could have predicted, and it was weird. So point being, I think it's a good pickup. I mean, the guy obviously knows things, or he has good ideas, but it seems bizarre to me because this is like the first season that we've seen a lot from MVP. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think that they still had the hardest group in Apex, so they kind of got shafted out of playoffs in that regard. But it's just bizarre to me that you have a coach, you have a winning culture, and now you're like throwing things in to shake things up, and it just seems weird.
I mean, is he joining the coaching staff? Like maybe there's going to be multiple coaches or something like that.
Well, it's Team Seoul, right? Maybe for all I know, Uve doesn't want to go to NA, right? I mean, it could be something that simple. Like maybe Uve doesn't want to move to LA for season 1. It's just like someone else. And it could just be a life thing, maybe he's like tied down to a wife or something. I don't know any of this. I'm just saying like this. It's Team Seoul signed them, not Lunatic High, quote unquote. So these are OWL decisions, and stuff like that needs to be like,
I think we need to throw all of our preconceptions about esports teams out of the window, because you have to remember there's $20 million buy-in. So if you've already sunk $20 million into getting a franchise spot, what's an additional 100K, let's say, or whatever, 50K, 100K to hire an additional person to join the team? I mean, we're talking about rosters that can be up to 12 people. I don't see why we can't have a second coach or multiple coaches.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, let's see. Next bit of news is, I guess, really had to do with Cool Matt, and I just saw earlier that I think it was in a clip or something of his, or maybe
he did a podcast.
He did a podcast. Okay,
I forget who it was. I want to say it was like High Noon. I might have just made that up.
Yeah, I think it is High Noon. That sounds right, actually.
They have like a lot of McCree themed things on their overlay.
Yeah. No, I knew those guys are good. Yeah, so Cool Matt was talking about basically he's been getting offers, because a lot of people are wondering if Cool Matt will be or will get a chance to land on a team. And so he mentioned that he's been getting offered from yet announced Overwatch League teams. So I'm not sure if that's Philly and Houston, or if that's...
That's, man, it's like this was pre the Jacob Wolf leaks. So.
Right. So maybe it is one of those teams. But definitely great news to hear that Cool Matt is being recruited by those teams, given that, or he's getting offers. It's not just tryouts and things like that. He's actually getting straight up offers. So Matt's been great for a long time now, and it's good that people that actually know the game, are noticing it. Obviously. All right, I think that's going to be it for the news, just wrapping up the news. So why don't we talk about the developers update recently that Jeff came out with, talking about Toxicity, which has been a discussion for, it's been a while now. It's been like the last couple months, I'd say. It's like heated up again. And, Blizzard has been, I think, constantly saying that, we are going to be upping our just our tracking of toxicity and even maybe even just the penalties for toxicity. So he came out with a developers update today, and I think it was reiterating some things that we've heard before, which is basically that there are a lot of things that Blizzard, we are looking at toxicity like constantly. There are some things that you do see, there's some things you don't see, and some of the things that he mentioned during that was that reports do matter. So, that was one thing that a lot of people just felt like with the current system and the current UI, it just feels like it just goes into the ether and nothing happens. And, we've seen guys get like 2,000 reports or whatever before they're actually banned, for good. And, people wondering if that's the right frequency. So, he just reiterated again that reports do matter and that they've banned, hundreds of thousands of people so far. And then another thing that he mentioned was just that the philosophy they take, or at least the general philosophy they take, is they don't want people who are toxic in the game, period. So none of this like, hey, we're going to secretly try to put them in this like sandbox with other toxic people and just have them play with each other. No, they're just going to get rid of them. So, all right, just with those first two things, what do you guys think about both of those things, just in general?
It's great to hear some confirmation that reports actually matter. I was actually one of those people that scoffed whenever my teammate was like, report this guy, he's playing Sinitraa on offense. I'm like,
right,
that doesn't matter. Blizzard's never going to do anything about someone just playing the game, as relatively as it was meant to be played. But it turns out it actually does matter if you have someone that's constantly, I don't think they're going to ban somebody who plays Sinitraa one trick just for playing Sinitraa one trick. But if someone's consistently behaving poorly, flaming their teammates, picking heroes that don't actually make any sense, even throwing overtly, then you should absolutely be reporting them, because Blizzard is tracking that, which is important, that you have some way to actually impact this. So that's really good. I'm really glad to hear them say that. And the fact that I think they said like 350,000 plus people have been banned due to these reports is a good sign. Is it enough? Probably not. We all know, if you've played ranked, that 30 to 50% of your games have some trolly douchebag asshole just shitting on the team, shitting on the game, doing whatever. It's about that rate. That's even in the high masters, low GM range. I talked to my girlfriend who can't even play anymore. She's just can't handle what it's like in Plat right now, with how trolly and jerk off almost everybody is. So that's good. That's a good thing. Mm-hmm. I've never played a game with low priority queue. I think it's a pretty hilarious idea, though. Like, this purgatory where only assholes exist is like a hilarious idea, but I don't know if it's a good idea, so I don't feel too strongly about this one. But it's good to hear that reports matter, and it's good to hear that they care about this topic and are addressing it further.
Well, you mentioned Sinitraa one tricks. You can't Sinitraa one trick and do the bronze to GM thing, because we saw that. We saw Steve-O recently.
Yeah, Steve-O got banned
from that. Wow. The Flame, what do you think, man?
It's double-edged. Like, part of me thinks that this is Jeff saying, like, I'm sick of everyone's shit. Like, I'm just gonna start banning you and like putting out punishments, and that's cool. On the topic of the 480,000 also, like, I mean, that's cool, but it's not bans, it's just reports. Like, if they ban 480,000 people, like, I don't know how many people we think are playing Overwatch at any given time, but that's a lot of people. Those numbers don't exist though, and I kind of want to see them on a side note.
If it's just bans, like including, well, they're bans.
It's
right?
probably chat bans. I think it's chat bans.
I guess I was thinking suspension. Yeah, like chat bans and things like that. Yeah, so it's not like permanent, like perma bans. The 480,000 perma bans, that would be crazy.
Yeah, like action taken. So it probably just means like chat bans and maybe like weak competitive queue things.
Yeah.
Because yeah, like, I mean, that's a shitload of people.
That's a lot of people.
On the topic of low prio though, like in Dota, I think it works really well. If Jeff's stance is that I'm just gonna remove all the trash from my game and hard ban it, like I'm down with that, but that seems really hard to do and do fairly, at least from like a automated standpoint. Like the good thing about Dota low prio is like you get in there and you have to win 5 games to get out. And then if you get in there again, it's 10 games, and then you get in there again, it's like 20. And then some people just live there and like they never get out. And that's like their home, like some people actually like it down there. It's bizarre.
Really?
It's like this banished land where you just go and your games are all shit, but like you're having fun because you're just one tricking.
Morty episode, dude.
No, but it's real, dude. Like it's real. And like the benefit of it is that like you get punished. Like mentally you get punished. Like I can't play ranked until I win these 5 garbage games. And the games feel like trash. And like that's the idea is like I want to make the games feel like trash for this player so they don't want to come back here again. I mean, obviously it doesn't work and some players like just wind up living down there, but the idea of it is just like if all of the Hanzo one tricks are in their own Hanzo one trick queue,
it's the other world basically.
Then they're all playing together and they all hate the game the same way because like suddenly they can't pick Hanzo, right? Like if you put all the Hanzos and the Symmetras on the same team, they can't all pick Hanzo and Symmetra and they feel trolled. But if you're not in that Hanzo Symmetra pool and you have the Hanzo Symmetra main on your team, you feel trolled. So now suddenly like you flip the circuit or you flip the switch and now they're the ones that are getting trolled. So like there is benefit to it, and I do understand that Jeff doesn't want that associated with the game because they're all about like that positive environment thing, and they don't want like this like netherworld of gamers to exist inside of Overwatch. But like there is like a value there, and I think that eventually they'll realize that they might need to do that, or at least consider it more heavily.
Yeah. So the other bit, which was the last part, I would say, and it's definitely gotten a lot of discussion from this portion, which is Jeff was saying that it's not only their job, to really clean up a lot of this stuff, but it's also our job to, help to rid this game of toxicity, and whether it's just like everybody looking at themselves, and trying to, just be more positive, encourage your team and that sort of thing. Or, just whatever, right? Just any bits of just like non-negativity for the most part. That in itself is very important, right? To cleaning up toxicity. So, obviously there are a lot of troll responses to this, just given that, it's definitely very open to those kind of comments. But, what do you guys feel about it? I mean, I think that he has a point, definitely, that, it's up to us as players, or we control our behavior. So if we behaved well, then obviously there wouldn't even be an issue. But the reality of it is that, some people can't help it, or some people just enjoy doing that, right? And it might not be the large percentage of people, but it's definitely a percentage of people that out there that are always going to exist. So what do you guys think of that? I mean, him saying that, or maybe him, I don't know, just not really expecting us, but, really trying to get us to do that. And just by stating that in a developer's update.
I mean, I see both sides to this. It's a pretty funny statement to say at this point, just given how big a problem toxicity is in the community, to say, guys, it's up to you to fix this. You have to be better. You have to be paragons of morality and positivity, just like the Overwatch game world is. It's kind of funny. At the same time, I've been around gaming communities my entire life. At my job at Twitch, part of what me and my team do is community management. I have always believed that there are effective ways to deal with trolls, talk them off the edge, bring them into the community. I think it's possible. I think people don't do enough to try to speak directly to the trolls and bring them in. So I commend this on one hand. On the other, this just kind of felt like a slap in the face to everyone who's been suffering against all of the trolls. Like, it's been bad. It's been really, really, really bad. And I think Flame, you and me at our, at the higher SRs, we don't even see it compared to people down lower. So I don't know. I see both sides. Like, I think I totally support them spreading that message. Like, guys, we can all be part of the solution. That's how I would have framed it. It's not like, look, the community has to take some responsibility. I would frame it as like, look, we can be part of the solution by just, having the positive mental attitude and bringing positivity to our games. So I don't know. I see both sides. This is one that you can definitely pick at and tear apart in a lot of different ways. I don't know. What do you think, Flame?
Okay, I mean, so like let's cut to the chase, right? Like, I've been toxic before, and like when I started this game, I was like super angry. I mean, I hated this game, right? I was like in season 1 or whatever, I was like, this game is, what am I doing? Why am I playing?
I remember you in Discord. I remember.
I was just so angry, dude, and like I get it, right? And I like stopped playing super hardcore, and I just like gave up, right? And I like stopped playing as much. Now I play ranked, and I like don't get as tilted anywhere near as much anymore. I mean, obviously it took a year, but it happens, right? People can be reformed.
Yes.
What was I going to say though? When it comes to I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, like from my community's perspective, and like I have a community, and like I kind of like live through them in terms of like I see their responses to these things, and I see like their day to day, and I do have a lot of friends in like plat and gold and silver, like through diamond, and like like depending on the representation you are, just like where you fit into the spectrum of like the players, like the people who are playing casually, the people who are trying to play with your friends. Your backgrounds, your like who you are as a person. Like, people start attacking you like super hard in some of these ranks, and like I don't see it a lot in GM or like much. Like, you'll see people just flame for being bad, but like the insults get super personal and like super sexist and misogynistic and like all this really awful garbage that like I don't ever want near a video game in some of these other ranks. And so I think that when it comes to like those kind of reports and stuff, like I think that was a huge slap in the face from Jeff to be like, you guys need to start stepping it up, because there are people that are actually just giving up on the game. Yeah, but I mean, like, there are players that are just giving up because they feel like they're just constantly getting berated or called out for anything, like their voice, their gender, like whatever it is. And stuff like that like really irritates me, because there is like a way to fix it. Like, you can just start handing out bans. Like, if someone dropped a hard N-word in one of my games the other day, and like I know for a fact that like that guy is probably just gonna exist in this game and like keep playing, and stuff like that like can't happen. So like I think that there needs to be like a more like an easier way to like automatically do it. Like, the fact that you can even type the word in chat to me is beyond, like, I don't understand how that's even possible. But like, you can't say things like, oh, the community needs to be more positive, but like there's also not really ways to combat the negativity, at least readily available, until like yesterday.
All right,
so it's like weird in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he's not saying that they're not going to do anything about it.
No, I think but I'm saying like up until yesterday, right? Yeah. Up until yesterday, it was a black box, right? You didn't know how many people were banned. You didn't know how many people were getting chat banned. You didn't know if your reports are going through. So like, I could understand if this conversation had happened yesterday with that, and then he came out like in 2 months and said, we should be more positive. Like, I'm trying, like I'm trying my best, guys, and I'm still trying my best. But I think yesterday it turned off a lot of people to hear him say like, you guys need to do your part, when some of them just feel super, super attacked on like a daily basis inside the game. And it's like, I don't know. That's how I see it. And I think it's kind of,
well, I think awful. That, I mean, I know what you mean. Totally. I know what both of you guys mean by that. I think that, him saying that was mostly for people that do have some self-control, you know what I mean? And, there are days, right? Like, the three of us, we have self-control. Like, we can control ourselves and behave properly, even if we are totally raging. Like, we were able to do that, and I think there are people that are similar to us, but sometimes they just say screw it and they just like just unleash, right? And I think his message was really to those folks that just kind of soldier on, definitely don't let yourself just get too crazy, tilted and get to the point where you're just doing that. But there are people who just are not like that, right? They don't want to, they just want to be trolls, and that's not going to matter, right? Though no matter what he says to those type of people, it's not going to matter. So yes, they have to do something about those people for sure. But folks that do, when we have bad days and we may have the decision of whether we just want to just type a bunch of shit that we shouldn't be typing. I mean, I think we all have those type of days. So I think his message was just trying to, encourage us not to do that. But is it a slap in the face for all the people that are kind of like victims of this stuff? I don't know. I guess, but that wasn't really the point of that message, right? I
No,
mean,
for sure. And yeah, I wasn't. I didn't think that was the point of it. I just think that like it definitely rubbed people the wrong way. That said, though, like I mean, anything that comes out of Jeff's mouth, like people are going to respect, right? So even if like they like meme about it and the PMA thing is a meme, like it's a meme, but it's gonna like people are gonna it's gonna stick.
It's a good meme.
It is.
I like this meme.
Exactly.
It is a good meme,
like,
but at the same
like
time,
people in the back of their head are gonna know, like like I like you'll be thinking like I should be positive, even though it's like I'm making a joke of it, but realistically, like it does stick with you, and people will remember when they open Overwatch, like, oh, I watched Taimu's PMA stream, and like you're gonna remember like I should be positive, and like from that perspective, it definitely like the message is definitely out there now. Like they even kind of threw out this weird thing where it's like if you guys don't stop, like we're never gonna get replays done because we're gonna be too busy banning all of you idiots.
Oh,
and like
that's effective.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like what he said. So like he's aiming at the community, like the comp community, from that perspective, and just like every single time I have to deal with one of you morons, like the replays and the demos don't get done, and I get that. Like that's cool. Like I like that as a PSA. So. Like I think the video was appreciated. I mean, at the end of the day, people did want to know that people were getting banned. They did want to know people were getting punished, and that their reports are doing something, and that replays are on the way. So he kind of got all that in one shot. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
Trying to make a world a better place too. Good old Father Jeff.
I mean, how many game devs can you think of that are trying to bake in making the world a better place into their...
That's true. I can't think of a single. I can't think of a single.
They're just reflecting. Yeah, me neither. I've never heard a game dev say that before. So they're just trying to reflect that with...
Just gonna have a church. When Overwatch is done, there's gonna be like a church. Just gonna be like we'll be like no, like it'll be past though. We'll be like long dead. It'll be like 500 years into the future, and they'll like tell tales of like Jeff as like the Messiah, and there'll be like an entire religion dedicated to Jeff, like for our great grandkids. Like I guarantee it.
All right, somebody needs to make a meme of that, like right now, and send it to us. Please send it to us at the
OverView Church of Kaplan.
That would be amazing. But yeah, so it's obviously an ongoing thing. Obviously, hopefully Blizzard continues that work on it, and I'm sure we'll be getting more and more updates on this. This is never going to end. So hopefully it'll just be contained. Another thing too with the game is that another free weekend is happening this weekend. So September 22nd through 22nd through the 25th, the game's going to be free for the PC, PS4, and Xbox One. So pretty cool. I think it's been a while since we had a free weekend, right? So, definitely great to get a chance to maybe pull on some more new players. Hopefully won't add to that toxicity from other games. But, it's definitely great when they have just the ability for folks to try it out. Okay, well, why don't we get into some of the esports here, at least with the events. Contenders Season 1, Week 4 happened. And... we had a little bit of the same, actually much of the same as we had before. But I guess before we could jump into the results, one thing that was revealed is that the Contenders playoffs, at least the tickets to the playoff, the event, are sold out already, which is like really, really cool. There was, I think, somebody that posted on Reddit that they were trying to buy tickets and they just couldn't because they were already sold out. So, I don't know. You guys surprised about that, or... I mean, when is the playoffs? It's like 2 weeks?
First week of October, so I think like 3 weeks.
3 weeks? Okay, so it was like about roughly a month out that they were sold out. No, that's pretty cool.
450 seats, roughly, right?
It's not a lot of seats.
Yeah, it's not a lot of seats. Well, I mean, it's cool. I want to say, I'm trying to think of how many people were in Santa Monica, how many seats there were. Probably more than 450, but I can't. I don't know.
I feel like it was really similar. I don't think it was.
I think it's like exactly. Yeah, I think it's like similar. So like, if that's the size of the crowd that they can get, then like that's still really good, in my opinion. Especially for it's not. I mean, it's a big event, but it's not in that regard. Like people, I don't think people are gonna super be flying out for it. Some of them might, because I mean, if you're going to that, you're gonna go to like, would you go to that or BlizzCon if you were gonna pick a thing to go to? That said, though, like I think that there are definitely a lot of diehard Overwatch fans, and it is good to see like the scene's growing and that people are willing to go to these live events, because this is I mean, the new stadium also is hype, like the fact that they made it. Or the
people are paying for these tickets. It's not like
they're cheap. It's like $15 or something.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it was like really cheap.
Something. Yeah, it's not like World Cup. You just show up, right?
It's like a meal at Panera or something.
A meal at Panera. It's not a cheap meal. Panera, man, those soups and stuff cost a lot. Yeah, Ben, what do you think about that?
I'm glad to see it sold out. It's not a surprise though.
Are you gonna go?
I'm not planning on going at this time. I probably should, but I've just got a ton of travel these next couple of weeks, so I thought I might just take it off and watch from home.
Yeah, yeah. Home is usually the best vantage point, at least. Maybe not the best environment, but definitely watching is always pretty optimal from home. But when we talk about the results now, going into Europe's results first, we had Team Giganti actually beat 1-2-3 3-1, which I'm still showing the Twitter thing. My bad, guys. So Giganti, who has been playing well the entire time, ended up putting a loss on 1-2-3's record here, because 1-2-3 was like the only undefeated team with Misfits going into this week. So I guess another notch for Giganti, right? Like you mentioned, Giganti, looked like a solid team, even when we were talking about just orgs and OWL. Anything here? Like, you surprised by this, or how much do you know about?
I forget. I feel like I watched this. I don't remember if I watched it. I think this was like the Friday night match, I believe, or Friday afternoon, whatever. I think they had a sub on 1-2-3. I think IPN subbed in. He was on one of the World Cup teams, but I don't remember which country off the top of my head. So they had a new support in. That said, Giganti's been playing really well.
Yeah.
They have, Linkster and Davin have been playing incredibly well. I think Happy Cool's that's the other team. That's on 1-2-3. Point being, I think Linkster and Davin on the DPS side are just nuts. Fraggie's obviously nuts. The team is just good, but again, they were down a player. I think Bach was out and IPN went in. So playing with a sub kind of sucks for them, I guess. But I think 1-2-3 is still in a really good spot, and so is Giganti, I think, going forward for playoff potential.
Yeah, well, I'll take a look at the records in just a second here, but kind of going through the rest of the results. Singularity had definitely a good week here, playing twice and ended up winning twice. United just continuing their slide. They can't even win a game, much less a set. It's kind of crazy right now for United. And then Misfits just barely edging out Gamer Origins. So, Misfits, I would say looking a little bit more vulnerable than they have in the past. They've just been wiping teams up until then. So, maybe a little bit of scare from the Gamer Origins. But if we look at the record here, take a look at this. We've got Misfits obviously sitting in the top 5-0, and then Giganti 1-2-3 pretty much sitting second and third there with one loss. And then we've got a bunch in the middle here that they still got a chance to actually get in here. And then in the playoffs, does everybody make the playoffs? I forget how it works.
No, it's just top four. And then it's kind of like E-League again, where they don't actually play each other. It's kind of sad, but
yeah,
it's part of the deal.
Yeah, it's kind of so anyways, that fourth spot is definitely heavily contested by 3 teams right now. But EU9 and Bazooka Puppies, they're pretty much out, right?
There's no chance.
Yeah, they can't even get in. Wow,
yeah,
that's
totally
just crazy, man. Both teams, I think, I don't know what happened. Bazooka Puppies, I think, lost some people, but United, I have no idea, man. That's just crazy how far they've slid. But yeah, anyways, Europe, any last comments before we move on to NA?
I'm a Linkster fanboy, so I'm super excited about Giganti doing well. And yeah, just E United. It's crushing to see how different they're playing than last season. It's just I've almost never seen anything like that. We've seen teams rise and fall, but this has to be one of the most drastic and utterly just absurd 180s that a team has taken. So it sucks. I'm also an United fan, so I'm surprised and a little bit disappointed.
Yeah, it is what it is. I don't know. They're kind of in that same boat with Rogue in my head in terms of teams that were really good at the Tracer and the standard dive comp that we don't really run Reinhardt, Doomfist, McCree kind of stuff. And now that the meta is kind of changing and teams are getting better, I think at dive just in general from playing so much, they kind of got phased out. Or it looks like they're getting phased out. It started off with people making the joke they were at World Cup, and then 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, you're okay, well, now what? What's the excuse now? I think that they're just not in a good mental state. I don't know what their situation is for Overwatch League. Maybe they're demoralized. Maybe they're having a hard time. Maybe they're trying out for other teams. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Point being though, that there's obviously something going on there, because this team went from I think they won season 0, and now they're at the bottom of season 1. Which is, we'll talk about NA, but it's the same thing over there, right?
Yeah. Speaking of NA and phasing out to obviously FaZe beating Rogue 4-1 here. MVS 4-0 over Renegades, no surprise there. Envision 4-0 over Congarna. I mean, I think 4-0 is probably a little bit of a surprise, but still, Envision definitely playing well right now. And then Immortals, which is basically the EU United of NA, right? They losing again to FNRG FE. So Corn Dogs obviously bopping those I don't know what those gladiators or whatever in the head there. But yeah, any surprises here? I feel like all these results were pretty expected given the results from the following week or the previous weeks.
Yeah, everything but Congarna and Vision is what you'd expect.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, depends on what you define, I guess, right? Like, the MVS Renegades game, I mean, it was entertaining. There was definitely like some clowniness going on, but I mean, MVS is just kind of rolling over people, and Renegades is having a really tough time, like doing anything this season. So that match went about as expected. FaZe, again, I think Rogue getting better. Like I say that with a caveat, right? It's like they should be at the top in my opinion, and they should be getting better at like the Doomfist, at the McCree stuff and the Sombra, but they're starting to run Sombra and they're starting to look a little bit better with it. That's why I do think like FaZe is a very top contender going into the playoffs. I think it'll be hard pressed for anyone to really throw off Envy, but FaZe, again, I think that, yeah, this was like an expected win. I think Carpe has just been insane. Like Carpe could not have been a better pickup for that team, and they're doing a lot of work with him. The Envision game, Congarden's in like this weird spot right now. I don't know anything, like I don't have any leaks, but there's definitely like some weird roster struggles going on there where like people, like something about the team wanted to switch players and other people don't, and like they're just not in a good spot too. And they're also another team that's not sponsored, so a lot of them I'm sure are doing owl tryouts, and like they're on a different page, and some players are scrimming with other teams and trying out for this team and that team, and yeah, that's and I don't have an excuse for Immortals, to be honest. Like I'm out of excuses for Immortals. But FNR is really fucking good. Like at the end of the day,
yeah, they are good. I mean, no question, they are good. So I think this again, like the fourth spot in this region is the same situation.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same exact situation.
This is even more competitive. I think all three of these teams, like you said, even Rogue is kind of on the rise right now. It's going to be heavily contested the next couple of weeks to figure out who's going to be moving on. But same situation, Immortals, Renegades, they're already out. Renegades only won one game the entire time. Wow. That's
absolutely brutal.
Yeah, that's very
crazy.
Very brutal.
It is crazy.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, I wouldn't say any too big surprises. I think this coming week is going to be huge because let's see who plays who in this coming week here. Let me see here. Week 5, because if any of those middle teams play each other, that's like a huge. Yeah, Congarna and Rogue play each other. That's huge swing right there. Yeah, even FNRGFE playing Envision, I think is gonna be pretty big too. So definitely tune into those this week. Let's take a look at the EU one too. Let's see if those.
Actually, this looks a little rough for FNRGRE because the FE, sorry. Because they have to play Envious and Envision, the two top ranked.
So, like, I want to bring in a point though that I've had this conversation. Envision actually hasn't played Envy, FaZe, or FNR, and if you look at the FNR match versus FaZe, and I think it was like week 1 or week 2, that match was actually stupid close. Like FaZe won 3-1, but like I think half the maps came down to like 1 or 2 team fights, and it's like one of those things like you don't really know or notice. Like you see 3-1, and maybe you're like, okay, well they got beat, but again, it's like really just comes down to like 1 or 2 fights on 2 CP that maybe go a different way, or like 1 pulse bomb, So I think FNR should beat Envision. Like that's my prediction for the week. And I do think that Envision's about to hit their stopping point on their their nuts win streak. Like they're about to go up against the teams that have kind of evaded them. I think them beating Immortals in week 1 was kind of like it broke Immortals, Like I think that was like the starting point for Immortals. Like maybe they had confidence issues in week 1 and then Envision just slapped them, and then that was like the downfall of them, the sleep on us meme from McGravy. But
wow, people are predicting your memes before you even say them in chat. Nice.
What did they say?
No, they said sleep on us like 2 seconds before you said that.
No, it's the Envision thing. Like that's the joke. It's like, but they're playing super well. Like Jaru, McGravy, everyone's just been playing so well. They're deep. Their supports, I think, are 2 of the best. I don't think that they get enough love from the casters. I think Fire and Fozix have been like so good for that team. Everyone's just been on the same page. They look so good, but My point being that like I think that they were the ones that just like kind of crushed Immortals' hopes and dreams, and then now they're kind of like riding the momentum from that match. But I think FNR GFE has also been like playing super well. So like that'll actually probably be the best match of the week. I mean, to your point, but I don't think it's going to be as. I don't see it being one-sided at all.
Okay. Yeah.
And then Renegades versus Immortals is kind of like
Dude,
the
that's
anti-hype
one
match right ever.
All right, let's make a prediction on that one. Let's make a prediction on that one.
I've seen some wild shit from Mangachu, man. You never know what you're gonna get. So I don't know. I think if Immortals loses that match, I don't know what their Overwatch League prospects look like, and like they're gonna have to start.
They gotta win that match, right? They have
start gutting
to win
the roster.
Match.
Yeah,
I say the Immortals 3-2. No, 3. No.
I think if it's that
only
close,
4, there's only 4,
problem. And that's not even like a diss on Renegades. I think Renegades is just in this weird spot where nobody on their team knows what they're playing. They're all looking for Team Owl. They all 6 of them tweeted, I think, the LFT Owl tier 1 thing. You know, like the twit longer.
I guess they could go 2-2, right?
No, you have to win.
You have to win, right? No, you have to win. Yeah, 3-2. Okay, I was right in the first part. Okay, yeah. I say
the Mangachu Junkrat might exist in this match though, so like there's a chance.
Oh, that's true.
Like
this is gonna be on the new patch. I totally
there's a lot of wild shit that could happen this week. Like
this changes everything.
Yeah, throw your preds out the window. If Mangachu comes in with a Junkrat and just like destroys
week 1 Mangachu is like it's gonna be pretty nasty. But
I'm excited. This week will be fun to watch.
Match of the week is where he finishes last, man. Basically, this is.
I don't know. You have to look at Congarnet Rogue. I think that match, so much weight is behind.
Can we talk actually? I just want to bring this up. I love the Contenders Friday night shit. Like I like the concept of like the Friday night like hype match kind of thing where like I just watch Overwatch at 8 o'clock and 10 and that's it. Like I think that's like so cool.
Yeah.
And like we haven't had that like in TF2 and I mean everyone's like LOL TF2, but like in TF2 it was like matches were at like night, like 9 to like midnight, and that was it. But like it's kind of draining to like watch Overwatch at like 5 p.m. Eastern or something when you're on the weekend. Like I like the concept of like the super late night games where you're just like, all right, I'm
after you've already had a few beers,
or just, like, you're done with work, you like maybe you took a nap, you like just want to sit down and chill, and like it would be like that time where you just want to like not play games. Like I like the concept, and I hope that they stick with this like going forward.
It's kind of like Alienware used to be, you know, like AMMs, you know, just like.
Oh yeah, but they started at like 10 o'clock in the morning and then went.
I know, but
like,
at least at night. At least
like a 14-hour day.
Yeah. But yeah, it's true. That's true. It's going to be good. Let's take a look at EU real quick. Let's see what the schedule looks like there. All right. Do we have any of those middle?
A battle of the bottom of the barrel.
No, this is wrong. This is wrong.
Puppies.
Here we go. Let me see. No, week 5. I wish I would remember like resets. Here we go. Oh yeah, you're right. Totally. Yeah. What's going on here? Like, how did they know?
And then a battle.
How did
battle
they
of
totally
the
know?
too.
Yeah.
It's a prophecy. This shit was like pre-planned.
I know, man. Okay,
there's a lot of good matches though. I mean, C9's kind of playing like the tryout series right now, so I don't know. You know, you never know which Cloud9 you're gonna get depending on the week.
A pretty important match too.
But that's well. I don't.
No, you literally don't know which Cloud9 you're going to get as in the roster.
Like, you actually don't even know what players going to be in. So like that's what I mean. Like, I don't know that C9 is super intent on the playoff contention. I mean, obviously it's really good for the org, but it doesn't seem like they're taking this tournament as like they're the one team that just keeps bringing out whoever. Yeah, we'll try this roster this week.
Let's try this lineup. Yeah, see if we can get.
Giganti Singularity has a lot of playoff implications. Singularity I think is like sitting at 2-2. I think that they're all the way out. So every win for Singularity is a big deal. I think so.
Yeah, you're right.
Singularity could still go.
They're like 2-3.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a win over Giganti is like huge for them just from a morale standpoint. They can still kind of squeeze in, I think, if like another team loses. But Europe's like these matches are pretty good. And 1-2-3 versus Misfits. I mean, if 1-2-3 beats Misfits, then suddenly Misfits is 5-1 and 1-2-3 is 4-1. Like every team will just be like that first place will be a lot less optic. Or I just read optic flame in chat.
Obvious.
A lot less obvious.
Yeah, definitely less obvious. And it will affect the first round of the playoffs potentially too. So I think you're going to want to finish first here in either of the regions so you can get that easier first round. But if you end up finishing second or third, it's definitely a tougher opponent here. But it looks like the 17th is going to be the day to watch for sure. And 17th is, what is that, Sunday? Sunday. Yeah, definitely tune in on Sunday. Definitely check that out. Good stuff, man. Contenders starting to wrap up here. So I think the hype for it, I think, is going to continue to build here. But speaking of, I guess, playoffs and things like that, we've got OGN Apex. I guess the group stages for the playoffs has been drawn here, and we got from Group A, we've got Kung Du Panthera, LW Red, not blue, red, Conbox, NC Foxes, and then Group B is X6 Gaming, Lunatic High, Runaway, and GC Busan. So yeah, Group B looks pretty crazy. Group A, I haven't watched a ton of Apex yet. I mean, I've been trying to catch up just with Hurricane and everything recently. So yeah, I mean, what do you guys think right now? Group B for me looks really strong compared to the other one.
I mean, Korea's in this weird spot where like season 4 has been, I mean, I say this every season. I mean, after season 2, and like, I don't mean to sound super critical, I'm not super impressed with the top Korean teams, like compared to NA EU. I mean, outside of the top like 3, I think like the top 4 teams or something in Korea are like super phenomenal. And like, I would watch all their games that they just kept playing each other. But some of like the like lower tier games or just some of the groups in Apex this season have been like much worse than even last season. I mean, last season you had Envy, right? And they like did well. But you had Rogue in like the toughest group. So like that season might have been a lot more hype if I could have watched Rogue, make it to playoffs and not be in the KDP Lunatic High group. And that's kind of how I feel this season. Like MVP Space isn't in playoffs, but I think MVP Space would like demolish half these teams. So it's because they wound up in the Lunatic High Runaway group. So like Group B is just another Lunatic High Runaway. I mean, X6 is obviously very good. They have very good individual talent.
Okay, well, is it a good format then?
Weird.
I mean, I feel like we have this happen every single season.
It is. It's every season. The playoffs are all that you really care about. And it's, I mean, aside from like you get that one match where, like Lunatic High needs to win against Runaway or Runaway needs to beat MVP Space. Like those are hype. But I think that there's a huge skill discrepancy between like the challengers teams and then the like teams that established in Apex. And there's also like a huge gap between like the top of Apex and the bottom of Apex. So I do think that like Lunatic High and Kung Du Panthera are kind of like the envious of Korea, and then every other team, it just feels like they're 1 or 2 steps below, and it creates like this weird ripple where the matches just wind up being hype. But those steps keep continuing. It's not even like there's a lot of teams in that middle of the pool. It's like there's 1 or 2 teams in the middle of the pool, then suddenly you take another 2 steps, then 1 of the 2 teams are at the bottom of the staircase. And that's kind of my feelings on the Apex like format this season. Especially, it's also a lot less hype, obviously, because there are no Western teams there.
I think the crazy storyline for me, and I wish I had time to watch more of the Apex matches. I haven't seen a ton of them yet, but LW Blue not even being in the second group stage, I think, is an interesting storyline here. I mean, half of this team is in the Korea World Cup team.
They didn't. I don't think they played, right?
They don't even exist.
Yeah, they didn't play.
Yeah, I know they're not making it to the second.
They
didn't play. They didn't play this
season. They just don't exist.
Yeah, they didn't play this season because they're
in New York, and there's
they're
like
in New York. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was the big. So dumb.
Yeah.
I remember this.
Yeah, that was like a big story, right? That they forgo.
Yeah,
they didn't.
I'm sorry, Chad.
They caught Luna. It was really inappropriate last minute.
That's right.
They went to New York. They work for Bare Hands now.
I was just looking at Wikipedia. Oh, never mind.
It's all good. Wikipedia.
Show rolling.
Dang it. No, I think one cool thing is seeing Runaway back, in the playoffs, given that they had such a bad.
Runaway is hyped this season.
I know.
Like, I want to watch them.
They're either like completely busts or they're super hyped.
No, like they're like C9. They did a C9, not like the C9 LOL. They just took their roster and they were like, oh, I'm the Genji man. I'm gonna play some Lucio. And then they took their Lucio man and they made him play like Doomfist, and the team just pounded. And it was like insane. It's like, why is this working? Why does this guy have sick aim? And it's like a Harry Hook situation for Runaway now. And like Runner's not playing and they're winning, and he's super happy about that. And like Kaiser's taking a back seat, and like the team just looks
taking
good.
A back seat, man.
Everyone just looked good.
Yeah. X6 is there too. X6 obviously had a great previous season too. So it's good to see them follow it up with another strong season. I think that it's gonna suck for one of the teams in Group B. I think that doesn't make the top 2 here. But we'll see. Lunatic High, obviously, they have this formula with just playing well at the end, man. Like, they have it down. Like, they don't really give a crap in the first 2 weeks, and then they just get it together the rest of the season. And wouldn't be surprised if they end up winning again this season. But I can't wait to see the matches though this coming week, or at least the next 2 weeks. Because
I think the next set of matches is tomorrow night, I believe.
Finally had some time to actually sit down and get a chance to see. Like,
You're telling me, dude, my last day of work tomorrow.
I know, dude.
Oh no, it's tonight. It's in 7 hours.
Oh yeah, we didn't even bring that up yet, Flame. Like we talked about it last week.
We talked about it when you weren't on the show.
Yeah, we talked about when you were on the show. But yeah, how's it feel? Gonna last day of work tomorrow, and I remember there's like a couple times that I've ever left companies, and man, the last days that I'm there, they feel so good. I hate to say it, but they actually feel really, really good because you're just like, I don't give a shit, man. It's like, it doesn't matter what happens. I mean, I'm supposed to pass stuff off, but they don't really care. It's like, I don't even know why you're even going. Why are you even going?
I told them, no, it's not even that. Like, I told them I'd finish a project for them or like update it by like tomorrow, and I haven't even done it yet. Like, I'm going to do it tomorrow. It's going to take me like an hour. But I've just been like, I don't give a shit. Like today, I didn't even go in. I was like, I'm not going in today. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, what are they're gonna fire me? Like,
yep.
But the point is, like, when I told my boss, he was just like, "You're doing the right thing," and I couldn't even tell him what I was doing because honestly, I don't know what I'm doing. And like, people are gonna be like, "Oh, he's just hiding that." Like, I actually don't. I haven't signed any contracts, so like, I don't actually have like a long-term, like established thing right here. Like, I definitely have. Yeah, I definitely know enough, and like, I definitely have options, and like. My point being that like when my boss talks to me, he's like, "What are you gonna do?" I'm like, "I actually don't know yet, like exactly what I'm gonna be doing." And then he's like,
"Are you sure, son? Are you
no,
sure?"
He's like, "You're still doing the right thing." He's like, "You need to get out of here." Like that's the mentality of my company right now. Is like everyone needs to like leave because the management is like the management is just boning them, but it's all older people, and I feel really bad that I'm leaving when like everyone else is like trying to get their severance packages and like get fired. Actually, it's like such a depressing. Like even if I wasn't going full-time esports, like it was still like at a point where I was going to need to find a new job if I wasn't going full-time esports because like it's good on 2 steps right there. It's like it's going to feel really good.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely, again, like I think that, I don't know, I hate to say this because I don't want people to take it the wrong way, but some of the most liberating times is when you're leaving a job and I don't know, sometimes you'll have like a week or 2 weeks between jobs and things like that. Oh man, that's the best feeling, man. I can't. I'm
so excited. Like,
hard to explain
it. Like, I'm just gonna wake up in the morning. I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna eat well. I'm gonna hang out with my dog a lot more. I'm gonna be able to stream and like.
As long as you got something lined up, it's good. Yeah. It's definitely good. Well, anyways, I'm glad you finally made that decision. Just because, I mean, it's clear you're going to leave your job, dude. It's like I don't know why it took you so freaking long to.
I mean, I had this conversation. Like, I needed Overwatch League in my face, and like it was never in my face.
Yeah, but
and now it's like in my face.
I know.
No, but like it's a big deal. It's like you come like in retrospect, I should have quit and done Contenders, and I regret not doing that. Like I really do, because they asked me to do Contenders, and I was like, I'm not quitting my job for 6 weeks. I need Overwatch League contracts. And then in retrospect, it would have been the exact same thing. Like I would have just been in Denver for the past month, right? Like
right. Exactly.
But I didn't know the timing was going to be such a way, and like there was a point in time last year, like. So like this is a true story, is like before, I want to say it was like May, whenever they announced the BlizzCon dates, there were Blizzard employees asking me like, do you need me to help you get a ticket? Because like there was a time where like I just wasn't going to be working the desk, and like they were like, oh, you might need help getting to BlizzCon. So in my head, I'm thinking to myself, like at that point, there's no way I'm doing Contenders if these people are not even sure if they're going to use me for World Cup. So like it all came full circle, and I wanted to do a World Cup, and I had like a blast. And I was just like, after I got home from World Cup, I was like, I need to quit my job. Like this shit was so much fun. Like I need to do this all the time. So it was just like a matter.
I told you that a long time ago.
Well, yeah, but like, you have to experience it. No, you have to like really. It has to be there. You have to feel it. You gotta learn. Yeah. So I think everything worked out. Like it was definitely
cool.
Good.
That's definitely great, man. I'm definitely happy for you, man. And you can't wait to see what you're going to end up doing next, and hopefully you'll let us know as soon as possible. Yeah, whether it's the same or it's something else.
No, I meant same as in like I can't wait to share.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, definitely. All right, well, let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about meta here. And Ben, you wanted to maybe lead us into this?
Yeah, I mean, I just added this. There isn't a ton to talk about because I don't think too much has changed meta-wise over the last week. It's just we're 1 week away from the Junkertown patch hitting, and I have to believe that we're going to see the Mercy and Diva changes in that patch. I really, at least I'm praying, I'm hoping. I thought they were coming this week. I thought they were going to come this week, but man, they can't come soon enough. Just every single time I play with or against a Mercy on ranked right now, I'm just like, man, I just wish this was PTR Mercy. This would just be so much more fun. And same exact thing for Diva. Just the fun factor is just so different. But I mean, there was one thing that was kind of a trending topic this week, which we've talked about before, but since it was trending around on social media, was basically the ask to, hey, Blizzard, for the next couple heroes, can we please just get some tanks and some supports? And if you think about it, like, there are some hybrid characters. Like, I don't think everything that's not support and tank should be classified as DPS. Like, I do think Torbjorn should be classified as like maybe some sort of hybrid. I do think May you could kind of classify as some sort of hybrid that has area of effect, like can kind of do some control with her wall. But frankly, there are really only 4 healers in this game compared to what, 13 or 11 DPS. Like, it's actually just kind of ridiculous when you really think about it. So I agree with social media and Reddit that, come on, can we please get some more healers? It's just like, you don't have any options. If you're a healer or a support man, you really don't have options right now. Yeah. So it's time. It's time, and I'm sure we're.
I mean, when there's 2 ways to look at it. Like, there's definitely the thing where it's like, if you hit Q, if you hit like the Q button, and that's like, you consider that the dice roll, like, you're kind of banking on you're going to get a Lucio on your team, and like, that's the first step, right? So like, that's like the argument that people are making, is like, you need to find a Lucio. So there's like 22 heroes in the game, 23 or whatever, 22, and you need someone that's going to play Lucio of all 22 of those. So like, you roll your 5 chances to get a Lucio main. It's like, that's how they see it, and I get that. I do think that, to your point, I do think that like some of the classifications are kind of useless and meaningless when you consider like, oh, Sombra's in the DPS.
Sombra's definitely like a hybrid as well.
Yeah, and like, I mean, Diva's been played more supporty recently. I mean, I wouldn't call her support.
She's still not support, though. There's no way.
No, she's not support, but I'm saying like the way you play them is like bizarre. But to the point of the balance in that, I do think that there is value in the balance of just like, having more players. I do want them I actually just want Blizzard to like go play Evolve, because that game is dead, and like the company ran it to the ground. But the supports in that game like fucking pound, and like, I'm confident in saying that like, I would love it if they just like ported them over. And like, they have like a Junkrat healer where you just shoot nades and like the nades heal and you have to like aim them. Like, anything that gives you more fun playing healer, I think, is like a good thing. And like, the same thing with like tanks. It's like, I get why Diva's fun, but you have to like kind of become Diva. Like, to play a good Diva, like, you have to like get in this like trolly mindset of like, I'm gonna hold right click in your face and I'm gonna stop you from killing my supports and like stuff like that. But you need like more heroes that are engaging and more heroes that are more like on the fly decision making, instead of like very static play styles like Winston, jump in, jump out, play around your cooldowns. And that's kind of how the tanks feel a little bit. Like, I think the tanks are super way more cooldown dependent. The supports are obviously a lot more, your team needs to be on top of you and helping you. And then DPS obviously gives you a lot more freedom in terms of like, I can dash, I can blink, I can, do all these things to like get in and out of fights and keep myself alive and heal myself, even if you're Soldier 76 and stuff, or just troll and run like a crazy wall climbing Junkrat tire for 2 weeks. So like, I do think that there is value in the balance of the game in terms of getting more supports.
I think so too. Yeah, I mean, it's not healers for me, actually. It's just supports. Like, I'd like to see more. Like, one of the things with Lucio, I wish they would never have given him, is the speed boost. Because I feel like a speed boost should have been on another character that wasn't a healer, but was a support character. So you could have combined different support type of elements to that. And I'd like to see just more supports that are necessary, that in team, just in team compositions, instead of just having like, it have to be some type of healer every single time, because it's been a long time since we've had that. Like, we haven't had May as part of the meta in a long time, and May's kind of what I'm talking about, but at the same time not what I'm talking about. Like,
so I know Blizzard watches this show because they have taken suggestions regarding like hero changes from the show. There's a character in Evolve, and it's literally just you shoot nades and like you have an option, right? Like, it's like heal beam versus damage boost, and like right click shoots nades that like are napalm nades, and they like do like small damage but light people on fire, so it does like tick damage. And then like left click is just like a heal nade that you just shoot the ground. And like I honestly want that shit so bad in this game.
That's like Ana, but just with nade. That's like a Junkrat Ana basically, right?
Sure, but it's not anti-heal. Anti-heal's still crazy.
Okay, so yeah, so there's no anti-heal there. Like,
and the ult was actually a speed boost in that situation actually. So it kind of like created this I can play. It's like this kind of Lucio speed kind of.
I don't mind the whole grenade, but that good effect, whatever it is, if it's heal or whatever buff. I just don't want it to be heal. Like I want it to be some other type of enhancement or buff to like.
I think that there should be a damage resistance ability in this game.
Sure.
It's not shields.
That makes a lot of sense.
There should be like the old nano boost. I think that there should be something that you just give it to your team. I think that should have been a Reese's ult, to be honest with you. I think a Reese's ult should have just been that blue thing makes everyone 50% take less damage.
I would take that. Yeah.
But I think that we need stuff like that. We need stuff to counter, EMP, like more easily. I think, a way to unhack health packs would be dope. Maybe like some life leech abilities, like you turn on like someone that like creates like a.
I mean, we kind of have it with Reaper, right? But I guess you could do it as more
like a healer that gives you Reaper like heal kind of thing. I don't know, something like that.
Auras. I think more auras would definitely be good.
Bizarro new stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe heroes that give you faster reload speeds. Like there's so much crazy stuff you could do at the end of the day.
And then they're all support things. Like again, like I want to get away from just healing and damage boost. Like let's just get away from those things and do some other types of buffs and debuffs that are going to be super important to fights. Because right now it's just like you either have healers and you have DPS divers and you have obviously DPS that's or you have Pharaohs and Mercies and things like that.
Or you have nothing you just stand there and drop your shield.
That was the boringest one. Like conceptually it was interesting, but I think overall it's been.
I think the hero has potential, especially with the new Mercy.
It's all about maps. It's like if the maps could be a little bit more favorable to Orisa, then she could be viable, right? I don't think the maps are that great for her, especially like payload maps. Like Orisa's like not. I guess maybe on defense you could try it, but for the most part, it's hard to play it on payload maps. So
it's just hard. I mean, her problem is that she dies, and then you have to like walk this like. It feels like a siege tank. You have to like roll the siege tank all the way from your base to wherever you're going.
True.
That's kind of her downfall, but I don't know. The game definitely needs more like mechanics or just like things to like add variance.
And if you think about every new character added since the game came out, they've all been extremely unique. So it seems like we're going down the right path. I just really, they've gone like DPS or healer, DPS, tank. So it seems like they want to continue to vary it. I just hope that the next couple are more on the tank and healer side.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go on to some Q&A here. We've got 3 of them actually today, and if you have some questions you want to write into us, go ahead and email those to theoverview@chanmanv.tv. Luke B asks, when you watch competitive matches, what heroes besides DPS do you like watching the most and why? So I guess like POV standpoint, which I think maybe from POV.
Yeah.
Which one?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think Genji is always fun. He's got really cool mechanics and tech skills.
Besides DPS.
Oh, besides DPS.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I should listen. Oh, that's interesting.
You have 8 to choose from or something.
Yeah. We have 9 out of the 9.
Maybe 4 of them that actually get played.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could say any of the support like Lucio, just because the vantage point is more of a, like a more of an overall looking vantage point, right? Versus more of a closed type of thing whenever you're doing DPS or dive type of characters. So I think I like watching Zenyatta's. I think that's pretty fun to watch.
My thing with this is that it depends heavily on like the player, and it's like some players have like Winston players will have like the worst sensitivity to watch, and you're just like, okay, this person's actually just shaking. And like I do enjoy watching Winston and like Primal Rages when it's like a very controlled Primal Rage, but some people literally just wave their mouse around like wildly, and you're like, how does he control anything? So like, and I think Zarya is another great hero if we're not considering her DPS just to watch, because generally Zarya is positioned in such a way where she has to be aware of the supports and the tanks and the DPS at all times.
Oh man.
So it's like,
It reminds me of that.
It's good to be there.
That reminds me of that graviton that was above the Winston shield recently. Oh God, do you remember that clip? It was one of the Apex games, I think. But anyways, yeah, I think Zarya is a good one too.
And Zen, when it's like having a good game, otherwise like watching Zen in general is like kind of underwhelming.
Right clicks, man.
I think Lucio's underrated. I mean, he's in every single game, so you see him a lot, but he does have the extreme mobility, and boops can be very, very subtle. If you're not watching super carefully, it's hard to tell how impactful the boops are so frequently. Yeah. But Lucio's right click is actually an absolute game changer in a lot of team fights.
That's true.
I do wish we actually saw a little bit more Lucio first person POV in contenders and other tournaments. Honestly,
that's fair. Yeah.
Another one I like is Sombra, just because Sombra's always like on her little mission, and so whenever they're showing Sombra, and just kind of watching her kind of like peel from the team, then come back to the team right when she's about to do an EMP and just her little side things that she's always doing is always fun to watch, because a lot of times you just lose track of Sombra. Like most of the spectating is always so centered around most of the other characters. So Sombra just kind of comes out of nowhere all of a sudden. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, EMP, great. So yeah, I think that's another good one for me. All right, Kyle W. He's got kind of a long one here. Let's see. Esports is notorious for drawing extremely young talent, but it's also notorious for having players age out as soon as they're in their late 20s and early 20s. My questions are: players completely screwed over when they hit 30. Most of them turn pro before they even finish high school, aka or i.e. Sinitraa, and very few have college degrees or super notable non-esport skills. We've seen players like Internet Hulk and Pure make a somewhat stable transition over to coaching, and players like Reinforce and Flame make a swap over to production on-screen talent. But both options only seem suitable for a small minority of pros. What about the rest? Will we see the rise of esports restaurants like football players and baseball players do because their pro money ran out? Oh, wow. Okay.
That's kind of a cool question that I don't know about the answer. It's like
hilarious.
One of those things. Like if you're a retired coach, you're a retired player, do you open like an esports restaurant? Like that. I don't hate that question, because I do think that like there's validity there, and it's not. I don't know if it's restaurants or if it's like.
I wouldn't recommend restaurants.
Well, I mean, imagine if you had like a LAN center with a bar.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were in Shanghai, the practice center was actually a bar/LAN center. Nice. So like that was kind of cool. I don't think that there were TVs. I don't remember watching TV there or seeing any like esports on, but like there's validity there, I think, if you consider like, especially from Overwatch League's perspective, where we are regionalizing everything, like maybe you will just have like a bar in downtown Dallas or New York that's just useful.
I mean, it would be cool, but opening just a restaurant is not or a bar even is not a very easy thing to go about too, right? You know what I mean? So
well, I think it's more like, what do you do with your money after you're done?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be that kind of. Is there any other type of business that might be, analogous or adjacent?
An obvious one? I don't know.
I mean, there's tons of things: analyst, coach, commentator, GM of a team, things like that. But I think the important thing to call out here is that Blizzard really does want to solve this problem. That's why they're giving their players health insurance. That's why they're giving them 401ks. So it seems extremely apparent to me that this is a priority for Blizzard, is to actually make being a pro a sustainable career path, not just in the short term, but ideally, hopefully in the long term. So I think they're doing more along those lines than anyone in esports history, giving full benefits and 401ks. Like that's kind of unheard of as far as I can tell, or as far as I know. So yeah. It's a tough question and something we're wrestling with all the time. But I think, if anything, Blizzard is trying to fix this more than anyone else.
Yeah. I don't know what else they could be streamers. Also, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, be like Dyrus or freaking PewDiePie.
Yeah,
who are making way more money as full-time streamers than they ever could have as players.
That's true. Yeah. That's actually quite true. But in terms of restaurant, that's where the cool part is, right? Trying to figure out like a restaurant or something like that. That'd be. I wonder who will be the first person to do that.
Time
Taimu, yeah, with
the
his meatballs. Dude, those meatballs look good, dude.
Brad's got that video out there. Pure.
Yeah, like he was like a semi-professional chef.
Yeah. No, but I could totally see Brad doing it too.
It's a lot of defileta.
Yeah.
The video's out there somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Douglas he asks, I think we are all in agreement that Overwatch has only just scratched the surface of how big it could become as an esport. Other than the soon Overwatch League, what do you believe it will take for Overwatch to become a long-lasting esport? That's pretty much all we got, dude. Is it the introduction of more heroes to increase variety in team comps, new maps and game modes to add variety? Just curious what your thoughts are on what it will take for Overwatch to become a long-lasting esport like League of Legends, CS, and all the rest. Thanks, guys.
Long-lasting?
I mean, Overwatch League has to succeed for it to be.
No, I mean,
well,
the success is long-lasting, but I think if the question's more phrased in such a way, like, what do you think it's going to take to keep it successful, sustainable?
I mean, I don't think it. I think the quest is really to figure out just the product that can even be successful from the get-go. Because I think once you have that product from the beginning, it doesn't take that much tweaking. I mean, because if you look at all the sports right now, like look at football and basketball and baseball, there's been no innovations. There's been barely.
Is that true? Is that really true?
The 3-pointer's been moved closer.
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure you still have to like run into the what's it called, the field goal posts in football. I'm not saying that, like, I don't think it's going to come from a rule standpoint, but I do think that like the enjoyment of spectating games has evolved from sports perspective.
Okay,
and I think that like something
maybe
like that does
maybe
take,
production, sure,
and like production, and then like the concept of just like, what do I get for watching this? Like, why do I want to watch this? Like, you know, fantasy leagues are actually a huge part of why people watch sports. Like,
huge football.
So many people don't care. Even when
God.
I don't really watch football in general, but if someone's asked me to join a fantasy league and I have to like start doing research, and like, you know, I usually just go in there kind of blind. And I'll just be like, all right, well, I picked this guy because he has the best stats from last season, blah, blah, blah. Whatever stupid reasoning I put in, like, I start watching the games going to see if this guy's going to get me the right points. So, like, stuff like that, I think, is something that we need. I think we're going to need skins and, like, maybe viewer drops like Dota does. And, like,
don't do fantasy, please, guys. Don't do fantasy esports.
Don't?
I just think that concept is just...
This is, like, the first game, I think, that's going to, like, actually be able to sustain it.
I mean,
because the teams are like locked.
We don't even see stats right now. Okay, so how could
I don't know. Fantasy, they do fantasy in TI during TI because TI is like a locked tournament, but
it's not the same.
I mean, yeah, like
it's not the same because especially in a team sport like or a team esport like Overwatch, because you know the flashy stats don't tell the story most of the time. And
yeah, but that's the same in football. You could have like 1,000 rushing yards in a season and score like 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, but still, I mean, the touchdowns are the flashy part or whatever, right? So what I'm saying is like a Reinhardt that's just blocking shit, for instance.
Yeah, you're not going to draft him. Leave him on the bench.
God.
You pick up a Kragie, dude. That's like the point of fantasy sports. You're gonna pick up Kragie because Fraggie's just known for holding down W and swinging his hammer and like pounding you. Same with like Super. Like that's like what you want.
I guess if you're like required to pick one of everything,
you'd have to have a tank. Sure. You'd have to have a tank. You'd probably have to have 2 tanks, 2 DPS, 2 supports, or something.
Okay, maybe. I've seen esport, just fantasy and others.
Blizzard,
and it's just
call me up.
God awful,
we'll make
man.
this work. This sounds like a great idea, honestly.
It sounds like a great idea. Oh man,
yeah,
it could be
honestly,
pretty interesting. It could be interesting.
So the number one determinant of an esport being big is the size of its player base. The issue here is that Overwatch has the huge player base, but it hasn't converted it into esports.
Imagine if half the people who just got punished watched esports. We'd have so many viewers.
Yeah, hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands of toxic.
True. How do we get those
idiots
mothers over here?
Yes.
I think you're definitely onto something, Flame. I think things like fantasy, things like getting skins for watching or
jerseys, dude. All the Overwatch League jerseys and hats and stuff like that. Yeah. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be
getting in-game content for watching. And I hesitate to say it, but I think Blizzard could do some sort of betting thing. If it's within the game,
never do
way to buy or transact. If there was no way to transact with money on the marketplace,
no, they
were going to say
people did Diablo. Didn't Diablo become like a black market drug trading thing? Like, isn't that literally what? Yeah. Like, isn't that literally what Diablo's auction house was? It was just like
real money.
Yeah, but I'm saying like, I mean, I'm pretty sure there were like money laundering like concepts in Steam when it came to the market, like, oh, why did someone pay $500,000 for this one stupid hat? Like, people use it to transact money. I think like if you change loot boxes and turn them into fantasy points, like instead of getting the coins that you get in the store, those coins were like now bettable. That'd be sick.
Yeah,
like,
but that's still a currency that has value. Like they're good.
Yeah, but
they want to stay so far away from that. Like they're overly cautious.
Imagine if every end of season, imagine at the end of season 5, they just give every single player, I don't know, 5,000 competitive points. And those competitive points, you can either use them for your skins or you can use them for betting. And then the players at the end of the season with like the highest number of points that like won the most bets, like they get like they go to BlizzCon for free or something and like get VIP. Like that'd be sick. Like people would be so fucking hype about that.
I would be shocked if they do that. It would be sick.
Well,
it would
Blizzard,
be totally
call
sick.
me. We'll make this happen.
They're so.
I think I'll bring out one more thing that I think would be amazing for the game. Amazing benefit to the game, especially from the competitive sense, would be a stream switcher, so you could watch any POV that you want.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. I'd take that.
I think more than almost any game, it's so important to be able to watch what you want to watch in Overwatch. So I think that would be just incredible boost to the game's popularity as an esport right away. If you could just watch who you want to watch.
Yep, totally agree with that. All right, so I mean, there's definitely a lot of things, and I'm sure we're going to start seeing some of those things once the league gets established and there's time to work on some of those things. I mean, these are things that third parties could actually work on too. You know, like obviously you can't do as many things as Blizzard.
You really you can't. I don't think third parties ever get involved here. Just from the way I know, like what Overwatch League is doing, and just like the fact that we don't even have Face It yet. Like, well, who's gonna? If we had a Face It, I'd maybe believe it, but we're still looking for our own.
I still believe that there's gonna be something eventually. I don't know what it is. I don't know how.
I'm saying like expecting third party people to make stuff like that just sounds like, I don't know. Good luck.
It won't be easy, but one day there will be something. Even if it's not like a Face It, it's like just like, I mean, even like you're talking about fantasy, right? I mean, all the fantasy sites I'm sure are waiting to even try out esports. There's like there's a ton of fantasy stuff that like has been revolving around esports, whether it's like sponsoring something or not. So they're completely aware of esports, and once it becomes
for sure, you mean like
bigger, just all of them.
I'm
like,
sure.
You know,
well, I mean, think of
all that stuff. They're gonna immediately try to do it.
Yeah, I'm sure that they'll partner with someone to make a good website, or they'll just do it themselves.
Yeah, they just do it themselves. They already have all the framework to do it, right? So
I can't wait till the in-game UI is like good. I say good, like great, like fantastic.
Better spec mode, OWL launching, in-game drops for watching, maybe some fantasy aspect, better.
Let's just get that HTML5 player in the app, or you know, let's just get that.
I want like the phone app where I can just like do all my trades and be like, you know,
also.
Hey Kai, I'll trade you your Timo for my, you know, like you just.
I'll trade you me for you.
Yeah, I'll trade me for you. You just do stuff like that. Like it's actually so cool.
Let's trade coaches.
Yeah, exactly.
Another thing that people need to keep in mind is the fact that all of these sports owners have invested $20 million into their spots, and they already have stadiums. They already have, you know, huge marketing teams as part of these sports organizations. They're all going to be incentivized to market the shit out of OW League. So all this stuff is going to happen, I think, naturally.
Did you see the post? It's like it was like people were there was the post, right? And you said it was that people were complaining about there being too many NA slots.
Yeah.
And then one of the top posts was like, "Wow, nobody's gonna pay $20 million. Wow!" Now it's like, "Wow, there's too many spots in North America. Oh my God, Overwatch League is gonna fail." It's like it's like the same thing you're saying. It's like there's so many people just throwing so much money at it, and like they have so much influence. Like imagine if Comcast just advertised an Overwatch League.
Man, that'd be sweet.
Imagine TV ads for the Overwatch teams, like just going to traditional media. You're gonna have like radio, fucking
the Nate Nanzer
shows about it. Like everything is gonna happen.
The Overwatch Network you can pay.
Nate Nanzer on Dancing with the Stars.
Oh my.
Yeah, sure.
Just
what?
The Jeff Kaplan halftime show during the Super Bowl. I mean, like the possibilities are endless.
Like I could see Blizzard buying a Super Bowl ad for OW League, like 100%. In fact, I bet they would.
I would be surprised if they.
I could see that, especially if like one of the team, like Patriots, are in the Super Bowl or something like that. It could totally see that happening. Anyways, we're just totally pie in the sky
so
right now.
It's a late night show.
Pretty hilarious. I know, right? This is what happens when we do this late. But why don't we wrap up? We obviously don't have any more topics to talk about tonight. But before we do, I just want to definitely give just remind everybody that you can find the show on iTunes as well as all the other audio channels like Google Play and SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/ChanManV. So look us up, by typing in Overwatch or the Overview, and you'll find us. And if you like the show, leave us a 5-star review because it helps us out, and especially the SEO whenever people are looking up the Overwatch podcasts. But we're going to do some shout-outs, Flame, given that we're wrapping things up and we haven't seen you in a while, so you must be happy. Last day of work tomorrow.
I mean, shout out to my boss for being super supportive when I told him I was going to quit my job. I mean, shout out to everyone that's supported me and got me to the point where I'm going to quit my job tomorrow. Yeah. I mean, I'm a little taken aback because when you were talking to me, I opened up Twitter and there's a picture of Internet Hulk after he went to kickboxing class, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be shocked or scarred, and I'll post it in chat, but it's scaring the shit out of me. I don't know
what?
Internet
I'm just really uncomfortable right now.
What the heck? Is he naked or something?
No, it looks like he got kicked so hard that his face turned into someone else.
Oh my god. Okay.
I'm not kidding.
Where is it? Where'd you put it? I don't even know where you put it.
In chat.
Oh, you put it in Twitch chat. Okay, let me see this.
Yeah.
Oh my god, his face is huge.
Looks like his face. It looks like he got beat so hard that his face became someone else's.
I gotta see this. Let me see this. Wait, what the heck?
Right?
Oh my god.
Is he okay?
Dude, he looks like he's 50 years old now. All of a sudden, man, he knocked
someone kicked him real someone kicked him into the future,
dude. That's so stupid.
I'm so confused.
You guys are so stupid. Oh my god.
You're asking me about shoutouts, so I'm just looking at this at the same time. I'm like, I don't care about my shoutouts. What is happening? What am I looking at? No, but I mean, shout out to everybody. It's been a wild year, and it's only going to be even crazier. The rest of 2017 and 2018, I'm sure.
Okay, cool. Ben, how about you?
Nothing really. I think if you haven't been watching a ton of Contenders, I've been watching as much as I can. It's time to start watching. This weekend is going to be nuts. Yes. I'm especially excited for Friday, where we have, oh god, I'm already forgetting which teams it was. It was Congarna versus someone. Anyway,
no. Congarna versus Rogue. It's Rogue.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Congarna versus Rogue. It's gonna be a good one. I think Rogue might actually make it in. I think they might slip in, given how this weekend's looking. But it's time to watch. I'm gonna be watching this weekend. Also, Apex is in 6 hours from now. So yeah, tune into some Overwatch this weekend, and we'll see you next week.
All right, and then I'll wrap things up. Thank the two of you guys for doing the show and everybody for watching this late night. I think we're going to start doing it just more during this time period just because it seems to work a little bit better for all of us. So, yeah, try to tune in each week on Thursday. Well, on Tuesdays normally. I think we've just been doing it Thursdays recently just because of just all the craziness that's been going on, whether it's hurricanes or it's PAX or whatever it is. But we'll try to get back to Tuesday next week, guys. So tune in there. You can find all the VODs on youtube.com/ChanManV and follow the show's Twitter at the Overview GG. And if you want to talk some more, you can go to our Discord too, discord.gg/ChanManV. There's a Overwatch section there. You can also obviously go to Flame's channel too, which is much bigger also. So there's a lot of Overwatch talk over there too. But yeah, that's going to be it, guys, for the show. So for Flame, Fishstix, and myself, ChanManV, we'll see you next week. Later.